Hello NCAC sports fans, and welcome back to another episode of The Rundown. On this week's show, we'll highlight a stellar performance from Wooster sophomore quarterback Gary Muntean in a wild 49-42 victory over Kenyon in Gambier on Saturday, and a pair of win and get in the tournament NCAC soccer games also played on Saturday. In football action, with Wooster trailing Kenyon 42-28 midway through the fourth quarter, sophomore quarterback Gary Muntean sparked a dramatic comeback and had a hand in the final 3 touchdowns to give the Scots the 7-point victory over the Lords. Let's now take a look at some of Muntean's highlights leading up to the late rally. Muntean gave the Scots the early 7-0 advantage in the first quarter on this 21-yard hookup with Tyson Vogel. He then put the Scots up 21-14 late in the second quarter on this 32-yard screen pass connection with Russell Boston. Muntean then took matters into his own hands in the final 6 minutes of the game, starting with this play where he had to elude 2 Lords defenders and drop the pass in perfect position for Adam Kopic to haul it in for the 15-yard score that pulled the Scots within 7 with 6:12 left in the game. Muntean would then connect with Vogel again for a 3-yard touchdown with 2:46 left in the game to tie the score at 42, before plunging into the end zone from 2 yards out with just 44 seconds left to cap off the 49-42 come-from-behind victory. Muntean was named the NCAC Offensive Player of the Week after finishing the game with 6 total touchdowns and 442 yards of total offense. He rushed 15 times for 41 yards and 2 scores, and then completed 29 of 42 pass attempts for 401 yards and 4 additional scores. His 442 yards of total offense and 29 pass completions were the second highest outputs in school history, while his 401 yards passing was just the 4th time in school history that a quarterback went over the 400-yard mark. NCAC football teams return to the field this Saturday with 5 games on the slate, led by number 9 Wabash hosting Denison at 1 p.m. in Indiana. And we'll now turn our attention to the pitch, where we saw a pair of win and get in the NCAC tournament soccer matches on Saturday. On the men's side, Denison and Oberlin entered the match, knowing that a win for either side would launch that team into the NCAC tournament. The Yeomen struck first with a goal from Trenton Balucia in the 35th minute, but the Big Red would respond right out of the gate in the second half as Karch Magenti scored on a rebound shot in the box, just 34 seconds into the period. The two teams would then settle in for a defensive struggle through the rest of the second period and the first overtime session, but that scoreless drought came to an end just 2 minutes and 43 seconds into the second overtime period, as Oberlin Jr. Nick Wertman took this crossing pass from Adam Chazine Gray and headed it past the DU goalie to give the Yeomen the 2-1 victory and the 4th seed in the 2015 NCAC tournament. As the 4th seed, Oberlin will travel to 2015 NCAC champion and top seed Kenyon on Wednesday for a 2 p.m. match. The other semifinal contest on Wednesday will feature 2nd-seeded Ohio Wesleyan hosting 3rd-seeded DePaul in Delaware at 7 p.m. And much like the men's scenario, the Wittenberg and Wooster women's teams entered Saturday's match, knowing that the winner would receive the last spot in the 2015 NCAC tournament. The Tigers and Fighting Scots were scoreless through the first 35 minutes, but that would change at the 36-32 mark as Kate Burns settled this loose ball in the box, turned and fired it in to the back of the net to put the Tigers up 1-0 late in the first period. That score would hold into intermission and for much of the second half, until Michelle Brunswick was able to get her foot on this flick by Julie Smith and sneak it past the Wooster goalie to give Wittenberg a 2-0 cushion with just under 9 minutes left in the game. The Tigers would hold on for the victory, and in doing so collect the 4th seed in the 2015 NCAC Tournament. Semi-final matchups in the NCAC Women's Soccer Tournament will feature top-seeded DePaul hosting 4th-seeded Wittenberg on Wednesday night at 7 p.m., and 2nd-seeded Denison hosting 3rd-seed Kenyon on Wednesday evening at the same time. Fans, be sure to check the NCAC website on Wednesday for video and live stat links for all the tournament semifinal matchups. And as always, NCAC sports fans, for up-to-date news, stats, and standings from around the North Coast Athletic Conference, you can visit our website at www.northcoast.org. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter at NCAC, as well as like us on Facebook. Well, that puts a wrap on this week's show, but be sure to join us again next week for another edition of The Rundown.